From a child who lost her father and followed her mother around, rummaging through trash bins just to survive at the very bottom of Hong Kong society. That girl gritted her teeth and worked relentlessly for 13 long years. From playing a mute nun with not a single line of dialogue to holding the first ever People's Choice Best Actress trophy in TVB history, her reputation was spotless, her earning power was in the tens of millions, and all of Hong Kong had no choice but to acknowledge her. And yet, at the brightest peak of her life, she chose a man 5 years younger than her. A man whose romantic history was as thick as a dictionary, and whose record of abusing an ex-girlfriend was still fresh in the headlines. The entire city could only sum it up in one phrase: she was willingly setting herself up for heartbreak. So in the end, what did such a smart woman see that all of Hong Kong failed to see? It began on an afternoon in August 2011, the setting in front of a forest of cameras at an event in Hong Kong. The main character was a tall, beautiful young woman. And then she made a move that Hong Kong would remember for a long time. She pulled up her pant leg, revealing a huge purple bruise on her calf. So dark that even through the screen, it was painful to look at. Her voice dropped lightly, cold enough to send a chill down the spine. I didn't fall by myself. Anyway, it definitely wasn't from falling by myself. That young woman was Teresa Fu, a member of the girl group Cookies. To put it bluntly, she was the kind of person tabloids never had to worry about running out of material on. But that day, she wasn't the subject of a story. She was the accuser. And the person she named, in front of all Hong Kong, was a man named Him Law. Him Law's reaction was absolutely classic. A few hours later, he called the press together and held a news conference that lasted exactly 5 minutes, without taking a single question. Black shirt, red eyes. The textbook script of a reverse victim.
無論喺點樣爭執嘅情況之下，我令 Teresa 嘅身體受到傷害，都係唔啱。但係我否認有痛毆 Teresa， 同埋我冇一腳踏四船。今次係最後呢次講呢件事。
The general meaning was this. That day she'd been too emotional, waving her arms around wildly, and he'd only meant to stop her. But somehow, he accidentally injured her. After saying that, he walked away. Coldly, no apology, no admission of fault, as if he'd just described a weather incident, not a bruise on his ex-girlfriend's leg. And Teresa Fu? In the end, she didn't report it to the police. Partly because she was afraid people would whisper that she was putting on another show for attention. And so, a domestic violence scandal that had splashed across the newspapers simply slipped away into silence from both sides. One might have thought everything would pass just like that, but the truly shocking part was still waiting behind it. 1 year later, Hong Kong tabloids dug up his so-called romantic record, and the number they splashed across their headlines left the public literally open-mouthed. According to those papers, starting from his first love at age 15, within just a few years, the number of girlfriends he was said to have had already passed a dozen. Classmates, fans, co-workers, female artists in the industry, and even a few names from TVB's list of leading actresses. Let me stress this. This was a number published by the tabloids and was never verified. But it was enough for him to be crowned a playboy of the dating scene, with the familiar formula, gentle with the left hand, ruthless with the right. And as soon as a relationship had barely settled in, his eyes would start wandering towards somewhere new. And this is what surprised many people. This very man, notorious for being a ladies' man, married one of TVB's top leading actresses in 2016, Tavia Yeung. When the news was announced, the general reaction from Hong Kong audiences came down to one question: why? People weren't shocked because celebrities had fallen in love. They were curious because the equation simply made no sense. with everything she already had in her hands. Why would she nod her head to that exact man? Did she not know about his past? Or was there some hidden story outsiders had never heard? To understand that, we need to peel it back, layer by layer. Tavia Yeung's childhood, calling it hard, still doesn't fully describe it. Born on August 30th, 1979 in Sha Tin, with ancestral roots in Zhejiang, she grew up at the bottom of Hong Kong society. Her father died when she was only 2 years old. Her mother carried the burden alone, raising 2 daughters, Tavia and her older sister Griselda Yeung. Her family was so poor that they had to rummage through trash on the streets to survive. In 1980s Hong Kong, everything wasn't as glittering as it looked in the movies. Behind those high-rise buildings were countless families, crammed into public housing, scraping by on every last dollar. That kind of poverty didn't only leave people deprived, it also taught them a very specific lesson. Whatever you manage to hold in your hands, hold on tight. Don't let go. It wasn't until 2024, after she'd already been Himlaw's wife for many years, that Tavia Yeung went on a program and told the story of how her mother once took her and her sister to search through trash bins. Halfway through the sentence, she broke down in tears. Back then, I was too young to even know what suffering was. Only after growing up did I truly understand how much my mother had gritted her teeth and endured through those years. When she was 7, her mother remarried. Her stepfather was strict, and at times the atmosphere at home felt so suffocating, it was as if no one could breathe. The 2 sisters grew up in public housing, no pocket money, no talent classes. A young girl who'd lost her father and lived dependent on others would, of course, mature before her time. In 1998, after graduating from high school, Tavia Yeung had no desire to continue studying. She only wanted to start working and ease the burden on her mother. A friend suggested, "Try auditioning for TVB's artist training class. Once you get in, they cover your food and housing, and you even get paid." She nodded. In her class were Raymond Lam, Matt Yeung, and Chung Maney. But honestly, she wasn't the type born with artistic blood running through her veins. She admitted she'd never dared to go on stage and sing. Back in school, even during group poetry recitations, she'd only hide behind the crowd, moving her lips just enough to pretend. On the day she signed with TVB, she probably never imagined she'd be trapped there for a full 13 years. In 1999, after graduating from the program, she stepped into what felt like an endless stretch of extra roles. Her first role? A nun with not a single line in Justice Sung II, whose entire job throughout the drama was to strike a wooden fish. The peak of her invisibility came during the filming of Heaven's Sword and Dragon Saber. While Charmaine Shea was already playing the second female lead, Chao Chi-yuk, Tavia Yeung was only standing behind her, as an MA disciple. Meanwhile, every year, TVB welcomed in a new batch of fresh faces. Some were beautiful, some had powerful family backgrounds, some knew how to create drama, and some knew exactly how to maneuver their way through the system. And Tavia Yeung? She had none of those cards. She wasn't witty in conversation, not good at socializing, and had no interest in clinging to anyone. People in the industry gave her the bitter nickname Yeung 10 Knots, the 10 tricks female entertainers use to climb higher. She couldn't use even one. What she did have, however, was sincerity. She was clear about what she loved and hated. She didn't flatter people, and she didn't easily close her eyes and look the other way. A personality that would later decide the course of her love life. And then, slowly, the wheel began to turn. In 2001, because her face resembled leading actress Maggie Chung Ho-yee's, she was cast as Maggie Chung Ho-yee's younger sister in Before and After Marriage, the milestone that allowed her to say goodbye for the moment to life as an extra. In 2003, she won Most Improved Female Artiste and was nominated in as many as 9 categories in a single year. In 2004, she took on her first leading role. In 2008, Moonlight Resonance brought her the Best Supporting Actress award. Tavia Yeung moved forward in small steps, but every step was steady. Throughout that early stage of her career, Tavia Yeung's romantic life was unusually empty. Everyone in the industry knew that the co-star most often rumored with her was Kenneth Ma. The two acted together in The Hippocratic Crush, and their chemistry was so strong that fans even gave the pairing its own name, watching them over and over without ever getting tired. And yet, in real life, the two never managed to cross that line. In 2009, Beyond the Realm of Conscience appeared, the drama that pushed her from leading actress into the race for Best Actress. And also, the boldest acting gamble of her career. She didn't play a righteous heroine. Instead, she accepted the role of the vicious consort Yu Kam-ling, with a line that later became a classic. "If I want to slap you, I will slap you. Do I still need to check the date?" It was exactly that contrast that made the audience completely convinced by her performance. The final episode of Beyond the Realm of Conscience reached a rating of 46 points, ranking first for the entire year. It seemed as though victory was already within reach. But life doesn't lend joy for long. When the awards ceremony arrived, the category of My Favorite Female Character, which everyone had assumed would belong to Charmaine She, instead called Tavia Yeung's name. And immediately, a portion of the audience exploded in anger, claiming she'd ridden the popularity of a villain role to fame. From that point on, rumors of a feud between the two women kept being passed around, again and again. By 2011, even though TVB had named her among its prestigious 5 Faidens, at that year's awards ceremony, she still fell out of the top 5 in both major categories. The strongest contender for Best Actress ended up empty-handed. The world thought she'd stop right there. But her true ascension came at the 2012 TVB Anniversary Awards. With her role as the fourth wife, Hong Tis-kwan, a martial arts-style female role, in Silver Spoon Sterling Shackles, she won more than 110,000 votes from audiences across Hong Kong, defeating a lineup of nominees that included Charmaine She, Linda Chung, Kate Sui, and Michelle Yim. That was the first year in TVB history that the Best Actress award was decided by a public, one-person, one-vote system. And Tavia Yeung became the station's first publicly voted Best Actress. Walking up from the audience seats, she choked back tears and managed to say only one sentence, one that would become a classic. "Thank you to all the Hong Kong viewers for giving me this award. These past 10+ years on this road have been very difficult, but I have never once given up." The entire room fell silent for half a beat, then erupted into applause. It was the brightest night of her life. That short sentence carried more weight than the trophy itself. TVB awards had often been rumored to be arranged by the station, but this was real audience voting, meaning all of Hong Kong had nodded in recognition of someone who'd once stood in the background, as scenery. And down in the seats, there was one man secretly wiping away tears as well. That man's name? Him Law. That's right, by this point, they were already in love. And yet, exactly 2 months before that glorious night, she'd just been hit with one of the most humiliating stories of her life, the so-called car-shaking scandal that had all of Hong Kong laughing until they could barely stand. But to tell that story, we first have to turn to the background of that man. Him Law was born on August 28, 1984, and grew up in a walled village in Tai Po. If his youth had to be summed up in one sentence, it would be this: lonely, bored, and having no idea what he was suited for. When he was 8, his parents divorced, a blow that hit him hard. He later said that at that age, he couldn't understand why his parents had separated. All he knew was that a huge hole had suddenly opened up in his home. From then on, he stayed at his uncle's house, squeezed together with an entire extended family inside a village house, while he was always the one who felt out of step among the crowd. It wasn't until he was 20 that he could finally afford a computer and finally learned how to go online. He had only a few scattered friends and almost no interests. After finishing school, he worked as a lifeguard at a club swimming pool. With a good build, youth, and handsome looks, he sat high on the lifeguard chair while the girls in the pool looked up at him. There were even rumors that some of them pretended to drown, on purpose, just to catch his attention. A man who gets used to being noticed before he's even done anything can very easily become addicted to that feeling, and perhaps his flirtatious nature began right there, on that lifeguard stand. Originally, he'd planned to take the firefighter exam because it sounded impressive, but in 2004, he went with a friend to audition for the film Mob Sister, and in the end, his friend failed, while he caught the eye of a producer from Starge and Snaz Entertainment, entering the industry in the most accidental, misplaced stroke of luck kind of way. In 2005, Mob Sister was released in theaters, and he played the red scarf delivery boy, his very first role. By 2008, he'd signed a contract with TVB, but the real explosion came in 2012 with the medical drama The Hippocratic Crush, where he played intern Dr. Yeung Pui Tung. In a white coat, he had presence. With his shirt off, he had muscle. Netizens gave him the title. He looked slim with clothes on, but surprisingly muscular with his shirt off. Fans came pouring in, and film offers followed one after another, just as he was soaring like a kite. Teresa Fu's press conference nearly sliced that kite string clean off. Looking back, their relationship was the classic kind of set hormones. Same company, seeing each other morning and night, and over time, feelings naturally developed. But to call it love might be giving it too much dignity. In reality, it was more like a vague, undefined state. Later, Teresa Fu admitted that the two of them got together and broke up and got back together again, dragging on for about a year and a half. And throughout that time, she always had a faint sense that something was wrong. He always had excuses not to meet, always had vague whereabouts he could never explain clearly. In July 2011, the moment she secretly looked at his phone, every suspicion turned into truth. The two had a fierce argument, and then he abused her. Some sources said he slapped her. One version claimed he hit her because of a spilled bowl of kanji. What came after, everyone has already seen at the beginning of the video: the bruise, the 5-minute press conference, the most bitter irony. The person who ended up suffering the consequences was Teresa Fu herself. She was punished by her company for daring to reveal a scandal that affected business. Meanwhile, the man who hit someone continued appearing on screen, as brightly as if nothing had happened. Not long after that incident, The Hippocratic Crush began filming, and Himlaw met Tavia Yeung. On paper, there was no logical reason for the two of them to stand next to each other. She was a top leading actress, 5 years older than him, with a proper reputation and a clean record free of scandals. He was a third-tier male actor who'd barely crawled out of a scandal, with a romantic history as tangled as a ball of thread, and an abuse scandal that was still fresh in the headlines. Even Tavia Yeung herself later had to admit, it was truly strange. And yet, his way of pursuing her struck directly at her weakest point. No luxury gifts, no honeyed words. So what did he do? Every night, when she had to film late, he'd ask what she wanted to eat, and then bring it to her, right on time. Some days, after he finished work early and knew she was still filming, he wouldn't go home. Instead, he'd return to the company and buy fruit and desserts for the whole crew. She said that was the moment her heart began to soften. I felt he was actually quite a decent guy. Then he discovered that their birthdays were only 2 days apart, so he teamed up with her assistant to prepare a surprise. The gift that day was not flowers, not a ring, but an entire heavy roast pig, enough to treat the whole crew to a meal. The defensive line of a future best actress collapsed before a roast pig. In Hong Kong, roast pig is a dish for celebrations, for sharing with a group, not a private gift. Perhaps a girl who grew up rummaging through trash bins wouldn't be moved by roses, but by that kind of collective warmth her childhood had never had. But he still wouldn't stop. One account says that when his pursuit of her reached its peak, He took her to the sea and blurted out a line so absurd it was both funny and painful. "If I jump down here, will you agree to be my girlfriend?" She thought he was joking and, half believing, half doubting, nodded, only for him to turn around and actually jump. Straight in. That jump knocked down the final boundary in her heart. And so, the seed of love quietly fell into place. The way they went public, however, was awkward to an almost unbearable degree. On the night of September 18th, 2012, in a parking lot, he drove to pick her up after a party, and the paparazzi lying in wait followed them, minute by minute. During the 40-minute drive, she sat in the passenger seat, lying flat across his lap, motionless. Once the photos came out, the Hong Kong press sealed the case with 2 words: car shaking. The entire city erupted. Their side released a statement explaining that she'd been drinking that night, felt unwell, and vomited into a bowl of wonton noodles inside the car. The reason she lay across her boyfriend's lap? Because she was too exhausted and needed somewhere to lean. The explanation was so sincere that it made people choke with laughter. And from then on, the public permanently recorded it in history under its legendary name, the Wonton Noodle Incident. What was the truth? No one knows, and it no longer mattered. The two of them simply used the moment to go public. The public reaction? Wave 1, shock. Wave 2, ridicule. At the time, she was TVB's hottest leading actress, just steps away from being crowned Best Actress. And he, even though the Hippocratic crush had helped him rise fast, was still more than one level beneath her. Netizens even sat down and made comparison charts. Among leading actresses, Mioli Wu married a businessman. Linda Chung married Ekin Cheng. Fala Chen married a diplomat. But Tavia Yeung, with her own status and fortune, had gone and chosen a man 5 years younger, far below her in fame and position. And on top of that, someone stained by an abuse scandal. One phrase came out and stuck so tightly it couldn't be peeled away. She was willingly setting herself up for heartbreak. That comparison chart exposed something very real about Hong Kong entertainment. Successful women are still assumed to be smart only if they marry up. And precisely because she dared to go against that measuring stick of money and status, this story became worth telling. But the deeper people dug into this relationship that was mocked as self-inflicted loss, the deeper it became. Because after going public, if the two of them had simply loved each other peacefully and then slowly faded, there would have been nothing more to say. Unfortunately, fate was determined not to let this relationship run smoothly. The nearly 4 years of dating that followed played out like a drama script tailor-made for them, with a new bomb exploding every so often. Each one enough for the public to mock her for months. To begin with, in the very first year after going public, he was already flirting and joking intimately with a female co-star, right on set. And Tavia Yeung caught him, with her own eyes. From then on, she changed tactics. Every now and then she'd raid the filming set without warning, and every time she appeared, the atmosphere would immediately turn uneasy. But the scandal that nearly buried the entire relationship alive? The Sisley Choi incident. Around 2014 to 2015, Sisley Choi was a young female face at TVB, being packaged at the time as one of the brightest candidates for the next generation of leading actresses. Him Law landed the male lead role in Young Charioteers, and who had fought to get him that leading role? Tavia Yeung herself. She personally went to persuade TVB's senior executives to pull that role into her boyfriend's hands. So how did he repay her? While filming on location in Taiwan, he and Sisley Choi took things too far. Using the excuse that the drama had romantic scenes, the two interacted more and more frequently, and the boundaries grew blurrier by the day. People who knew the situation said that after returning to Hong Kong, Sisley Choi still thought Tavia Yeung had no idea, and was carefree enough to call him in the middle of the night. Tavia Yeung exploded in anger and sent him straight back to his hometown in Tai Po to reflect. One would think that was the end of it. But sometime later, just when he thought everything had settled down, she caught him still keeping in touch with Sisley Choi while filming in Wuxi. The breaking point that made her collapse was that he kept insisting there was nothing improper between them. She told him to delete the contact, but he stubbornly claimed he was innocent and refused to be forced into admitting guilt. Furious and hurt, she told everything to her close girlfriends. This time, she'd truly reached the ceiling of her endurance. She kicked him out of their shared home and declared that if the relationship had reached its end, the marriage plans would be canceled too. And by that point, they'd already been discussing engagement. More bitterly, to prepare for marriage, she'd quietly gathered about 20 million Hong Kong dollars in assets, 3 homes she'd saved for piece by piece after becoming famous, intending to use them as her dowry so she could marry with pride. Seeing everything on the verge of dissolving into foam, her friends advised her to let go. Is that guy really worth you treating him this well? The press was even harsher. One outlet commented directly that Tavia Yeung was so good to him she no longer had any limits, that it was a kind of love that humbled itself, all the way down into the mud. The ending of this incident was ironic in the way only real life can be. People close to the situation said that later, when he filmed Fashion War, the entire crew knew his girlfriend was Tavia Yeung. So he obediently kept his distance from Sisley Choi and deliberately avoided suspicion. So it turned out he could behave after all. He just needed someone watching him. And yet, in the end, Tavia Yeung still didn't let go. The reason, perhaps, only she truly understood. A person who grew up without a father and longed for family warmth far more than ordinary people, wasn't searching her whole life for some glamorous man. What she wanted was someone who made her feel safe, someone she could entrust herself to. And Him Law, during their time together, revealed a sincere filial heart toward his uncle and toward elders, exactly the kind of warmth she'd never fully tasted from a complete family. On top of that, the colors of their childhoods were eerily similar. Both came from broken homes. Both climbed up from nothing. And there's one point many people ignore. Tavia Yeung's own view of marriage is extremely traditional. She publicly said more than once that her ideal marriage was one where the husband takes care of the outside world, while the wife takes care of the home. She was willing to cook, manage the household, and give her husband the peace of mind to go out and fight his battles. She once said something that made many people frown. "I don't mind if my other half occasionally flirts a little, but if he truly cheats, I absolutely will not turn back." Some people heard weakness in that, but seen another way? It was a clear-headed declaration of boundaries. She knew she'd chosen a man with a complicated history, so she drew her own line of tolerance. No one else drew it for her. And him? He was changing too. Little by little. He once said in an interview, "My wife and I are both Virgos. We are both troublesome and both stubborn, but I know my own flaws, so I have to force myself to change." He said he often reminded his wife that no matter how badly they argued, the marriage had to be protected. Once we are married, divorce is not allowed. He made it clear that every time they fought, the one who opened his mouth first to make peace was always him. A man is not afraid of his wife, he respects his wife. Hearing that from someone once known as a playboy of the dating scene is a kind of remarkable progress in itself. On March 22, 2016, in Kent, England, the gates of one of Britain's most historic castles slowly opened. Leeds Castle was surrounded on all sides by water, moss covering its grey stone walls, half hidden in the English mist. Distant, solemn, almost unreal. Tavia Yeung, wearing a white V-neck wedding gown, holding a bouquet in her arms, walked through those gates. Him Law was standing there, waiting. No media, no flashing cameras, only relatives from both families. The witnesses were Tavia Yeung's mother and Him Law's father, along with her older sister Griselda Yeung, who'd specially flown over. It was a quiet wedding, real and sincere, without a single trace of commercial glamour. In October of that same year, they held an additional banquet at the Ritz-Carlton Hong Kong, with more than 50 guests. Nearly half of TVB seemed to show up. The press joked that it looked no different from an anniversary celebration for the station itself. The moment that made the entire banquet choke up wasn't any ceremony, but a song. Him Law went on stage himself and sang the classic Cantonese love song, Need You Every Minute. Before he'd even finished the song, Tavia Yeung was already crying below the stage. Seeing his wife cry, he also became choked up on stage. The two of them stood separated by the steps, eyes wet with tears. And when the song ended, they held each other tightly. The guests below had seen more than enough celebrity weddings, and yet in that moment, they even forgot to clap. They simply watched, in silence. Then he gave a speech that left the whole room still. He thanked Tavia Yeung because when they'd first fallen in love, she was the only one who wholeheartedly believed in him. Through 6 years together and countless storms, he said this was the person he would protect and love forever. After saying that, he kissed his wife 6 times in a row, like a woodpecker, making the whole hall burst into laughter. When the guests demanded one more performance, he kissed her again. This time, for a full 10 seconds. And then their married life became stable, in a way no one had expected. Tavia Yeung became a mother. In April 2020, at the age of 40, she gave birth to their first daughter by C-section. The baby's grandmother looked at that tiny little face and said she looked like a pearl, and so the child became Little Pearl, with the English name Hera. In December 2021, their son was born, a baby boy given the English name Eden. The two children were only a little more than a year and a half apart, a family of 4, almost perfect. Just as she'd wished from the beginning, Tavia Yeung almost completely withdrew from the screen, going from a best actress who'd trained and fought for 13 years to a full-time mother in Taipo, playing with toys alongside her children. She said this was the path she'd chosen for herself. As for him, he threw himself into working non-stop on the mainland, saying on a program, "Tavia Yeung has sacrificed too much for this family. She has suffered enough. Now it's my turn to carry it." His goal was to buy a home in Kowloon Tong under his wife's name, to set aside for their children's education. She responded online, "Thank you, husband. Work hard and earn money for me." He replied, "I love you. If you're happy, I'm happy. During the days I'm away from Hong Kong, it's been hard on you." Strange, isn't it? Those two lines somehow sounded more real than every grand vow of eternal love. Of course, not everything was perfectly calm. In 2019, when she heard that he'd shown signs of intimacy with a female co-star while filming on the mainland, she flew straight to the set and handled it, in her own way. And the matter passed. In 2023, another vague social media post sparked public speculation. But in the end, he explained that it was only about a betrayal of friendship and had nothing to do with their marriage. In October of that year, they returned to the hotel where they'd held their wedding banquet to celebrate their 7th anniversary, filming a sweet video together. And here came the final comeback. With After Marriage in 2024, Him Law was nominated for Best Actor for the first time at the TVB Anniversary Awards, the same top-tier category his wife had spent 13 years fighting to reach. That time, he didn't win. The trophy went to someone else. But for a third-tier supporting actor once stained by scandal to climb all the way into the Best Actor nomination lineup, that was nearly 10 years of him trying to catch up to the path she'd already carved out before him. And by then, it seemed no one dared to drag out the phrase, she was willingly setting herself up for heartbreak and laugh anymore. So did Tavia Yeung win her bet? Perhaps. But what she'd bet on from the beginning was never his fame or the achievements he has today. It was one single possibility that only she had seen. Could a man who'd grown up in loneliness, who'd once used violence to hide weakness, who'd once used flirtation to prove he was loved, could he, through companionship real enough, slowly become someone worthy of trust? She placed that bet, and she won. But winning was never easy, and no one reached out a hand to help her. In 2024, when asked what she liked most about her husband, she thought for a long time, then smiled. He often says affection should be like water flowing steadily over time. It doesn't need to be too fiery. The reporter pressed her. Then what do you think? She paused for a beat, her eyes curving into a smile. I almost shut off his faucet completely. After saying it, she laughed at herself. Perhaps love has always been like that. You think you're enduring, when in truth, you're waiting. Waiting for a man to turn from a playboy into family. Waiting for a choice that once made you nervous to become the place you naturally return to. That's the story of Tavia Yeung and Himlaw, a best actress and a player. A love story that took nearly 15 years before it could finally explain itself. Now, the roles in their home have almost reversed. The man Hong Kong once laughed at her for marrying down has become the main pillar of support, while the best actress of those years has peacefully stepped back behind the scenes. An ending as beautiful as a fairy tale. But let's be honest. When it comes to loving a man in order to reform him, 9 out of 10 women lose both their youth and their trust. Tavia Yeung didn't win because she chose the right man. She won because she was strong enough to draw her own boundaries and ready enough to turn around and walk away. And it was precisely that willingness to leave that kept the person who stayed. So what do you think? Was Tavia Yeung simply lucky enough to find a man willing to change? Or was she the kind of woman so strong, so unshakable, that she forced even fate itself to turn in another direction?